I will only be intimate with a woman who has more juicy things to offer than just her body in a relationship. I do not want a woman like my mother. I want a perfect woman, someone who can truly make me feel fulfilled as a man. I want a woman who brings something meaningful to the table, a woman who can also split the bills, Tunde said to Edwin, who sat across the table that quiet evening. Well, I can't settle for less. I don't know about you, but dear listeners, is it really possible to set such rules in a relationship? Sit back and listen closely, because this is not just an ordinary story. It is a tale of love and pride, of choices and the unseen hand of fate. Do not forget to subscribe and leave your comment below, for what you are about to hear is a story that will keep you at the very edge of your seat. For Tunde did not know that night, as the wind whispered through the trees, that the words from his own mouth had already called forth a journey, one that would test his heart, his pride, and everything he thought he wanted in a woman. And remember, in the land of men and women, the mouth that boasts often forgets that the ears of destiny are always open. The lounge lights glowed warm and soft, casting shadows across the polished wooden tables. The quiet murmur of conversations floated in the air, mixing with the faint tune of saxophone music playing from the speakers. Tunde sat up right now, his earlier calmness unsettled. The presence of Anita, the young waitress who had just attended to them, lingered in his mind like a soft perfume he could not shake off. She had not even noticed him, or maybe she had but chose not to show it. Her movements were quick and professional. The way she spoke, "May I have your order, sirs?" carried no pretentious sweetness, only a casual confidence. Yet, for Tunde, it struck like thunder. Her red lips, her sharp yet gentle eyes, and the bun that held back her curly hair, there was something in her presence that pulled him in. Edwin, always the sharp one, caught the shift in Tunde's face immediately. He leaned back with a smirk, his hand casually tapping the table. "Bro, what was that look just now? Don't tell me it's what I'm thinking." Tunde blinked and tried to wave it off. He reached for his glass, buying himself time before answering. No, it's not what you think. I'm just carried away, nothing much." Edwin laughed, a low, teasing sound. "Carried away, you say? Your eyes tell a different story. I know you too well, Tunde. Don't even try to deny it. You were staring at her like she was heaven sent." Tunde finally smiled, shaking his head. "You exaggerate. She's beautiful, yes, I admit. But that doesn't mean anything. You know me, Edwin." Edwin leaned forward, his elbows on the table. "It seems to me you're interested in her. Why not ask her out? Who knows, she might be your Miss Perfect." Tunde's smile faded, replaced with his usual guarded expression. "Oh no, I don't think she could fit into my checklist. Beauty is not everything, my friend. You know what I want?" "The famous checklist again," Edwin muttered, rolling his eyes dramatically. "Tunde, what exactly is this checklist of yours? Every woman you meet, you measure them against your list like you're in an interview panel." Tunde frowned slightly, looking away. His voice dropped into a serious tone. "Edwin, you don't understand. I've seen too many broken homes. I've seen my father drown because he carried all the weight alone. I can't do that. I want someone who is intelligent, hard-working, independent, someone who can meet me halfway. I can't be responsible for all her needs while I'm also struggling to meet mine." Edwin sighed and poured himself another glass from the champagne Anita had left. He swirled the drink, his eyes resting thoughtfully on his friend. "You want perfection, Tunde. But let me tell you, perfection doesn't exist. Even if you find someone who fits 90% of your list, the last 10% will still be missing. Are you willing to remain alone, waiting for that 10%? Tunde didn't answer immediately. He stared into his glass, his reflection distorted by the bubbles rising to the surface. His heart, however, kept replaying Anita's face, the curve of her lips when she asked for their order, the calmness in her eyes. Across the lounge, Anita continued her work, weaving between tables with practiced ease. She laughed politely at a joke from another customer, then quickly moved on, her tray balanced carefully in her hand. She didn't glance at Tunde once. Edwin followed his friend's gaze and chuckled again. You see? You can't even stop looking at her. You say she may not fit your list, yet your eyes betray you. Tunde rubbed his temple with his hand, sighing deeply. You think it's that easy? You think because she's beautiful and decent-looking in her uniform, she automatically qualifies? Edwin, I can't afford to be reckless. What if she has no ambition? What if she only wants a man to take care of her? Then what happens to me? Edwin shook his head slowly, almost pitying. You're overthinking as usual. Life is not lived on paper, Tunde. Sometimes you just take a step and let time reveal who a person truly is. You can't judge her from one glance. Talk to her, at least. Don't lock the door before even trying to open it. The waiter returned briefly to collect empty glasses from a nearby table. Tunde's eyes trailed after her again, though he tried to mask it. Anita's presence carried a kind of quiet dignity. She wasn't trying too hard to please anyone, yet she stood out. As she disappeared back into the staff area, Edwin leaned closer, his tone lighter now. Mark my words, my friend. If you keep waiting for the woman who matches your checklist word for word, you may never find her. But if you open your heart a little, maybe, just maybe, the right one will walk in when you least expect it. Tunde sighed once more, his face unreadable. He knew Edwin had a point, but something in him resisted. His list wasn't just about being picky, it was about survival, about protecting himself from disappointment of how his mother had left his father when he could no longer provide. Yet, no matter how hard he tried to hold on to logic, Anita's image refused to leave his mind. The evening stretched on, the lounge buzzing with laughter, clinking glasses, and soft music. But in Tunde's heart, a quiet war had begun, a battle between the strict demands of his checklist and the unexplainable pull he felt toward a woman he didn't even know. And Edwin, sitting across from him, could only smile knowingly. The night breeze of Lagos carried a mixture of car horns, laughter from people leaving nearby clubs, and the faint aroma of roasted suya from the street vendors. Tunde and Edwin stepped out of the lounge into the cool evening air. The champagne had left them light-hearted, though the weight of their earlier conversation about Anita still lingered. Tunde adjusted his shirt as they walked toward the parking lot. Well, I gave her my card. Let's see if she calls. His tone was casual, but his eyes betrayed something else, anticipation mixed with doubt. Edwin stopped in his tracks, looking at his friend with a mix of disbelief and amusement. Wait, you gave her your card? Yes, Tunde said firmly, unlocking his car with a click. Edwin raised his eyebrows. So you didn't even ask her name? Tunde shook his head. No, I didn't want to be too forward. If she's interested, she'll call. Edwin leaned against the car, laughing. Ah, Tunde, sometimes you amaze me. You're not being cautious, you're being foolish. You saw a woman you clearly like, yet you left it to chance? Tunde shrugged, trying to appear unaffected. If she wants to reach me, she has my card. It's simple. But Edwin was not satisfied. He straightened up, his lips curling into a mischievous grin. No, that's not how life works, my brother. Sit tight, let me show you how it's done. Before Tunde could protest, Edwin turned and walked briskly back toward the lounge. Tunde leaned against the car, his heart tightening. Something inside told him this wasn't going to play out in his favor. Inside, Anita was standing by the bar counter, scribbling something in a small notebook. Edwin approached her, his confidence natural and disarming. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm yet warm. Anita looked up, her sharp eyes softening when she recognized him. "Yes, sir, do you need anything else?" she asked politely. Edwin smiled. "Actually, yes. I was wondering, would it be okay if I got your phone number? You seem like someone I'd really enjoy talking to outside of work." Anita hesitated for a moment, her fingers brushing the edge of her notebook. There was no arrogance in Edwin's tone, no unnecessary charm, just a quiet sincerity. She considered him briefly, then nodded. "All right." She scribbled her number on a small slip of paper and handed it to him. "Thank you, Anita," Edwin said, now knowing her name. "I'll give you a call." By the time Edwin walked back to the parking lot, Tunde was already tapping impatiently on the hood of his car. "So, what happened?" he asked, trying to sound uninterested. Edwin smirked, holding up the slip of paper. "I got her number." Tunde's face tightened, though he tried to keep his composure. "You did what?" I asked politely, and she gave it to me. Edwin replied with a shrug. "Simple. You mean you actually asked for her number, and she gave it to you?" Tunde's voice was calm, but his chest was burning. "Yes," Edwin answered, grinning as he opened the car door. "See, my brother, sometimes you don't wait for life to come to you. You go for what you want." Tunde drove them home in silence, his mind torn. Part of him felt betrayed, another part scolded him for his hesitation. Anita's image haunted him all night, but what disturbed him most was the sound of Edwin's easy laughter as he tucked the paper into his pocket. Days passed quickly, filled with the usual office work, client meetings, and endless Lagos traffic. Yet, beneath the routine, something was shifting. Edwin began spending more time on his phone, sneaking calls during breaks, and stepping outside during lunch to talk. At first, Tunde ignored it. But one evening, as they sat in their flat, Edwin's phone rang. He excused himself, walking to the balcony with an unusual brightness in his voice. Tunde strained to listen, but all he heard was Edwin's soft laughter carried by the night air. When Edwin returned, his face was glowing. Tunde looked at him suspiciously. "Who was that?" Edwin tried to hide his smile. "Anita." The name struck Tunde like a slap. "Anita? The waitress?" "Yes," Edwin said, leaning back comfortably. "She's actually very interesting. We talk almost every day now." Tunde felt a storm rising inside him. "Wait, every day? How come?" Edwin shrugged casually. "She calls me sometimes at night, usually after her shift. She says she misses my calls during the day because of her job, so I adjusted. We talk late into the night sometimes. She's different." Tunde stared at him, his mouth dry. "Different? How?" Edwin smiled faintly, almost shyly. "She's real. No pretenses. She talks about her struggles, her dreams. She works hard, Tunde. I didn't expect to like her this much, but I do." Tunde clenched his fists under the table. He wanted to shout, to remind Edwin that Anita was the one he had first noticed, the one who had caught his attention. But the truth was sharp and undeniable. Edwin had acted, and he had not. As days turned into weeks, Edwin and Anita grew closer. Their late-night conversations stretched longer, filled with laughter and moments of quiet sharing. Edwin would sometimes end their calls with a gentle, "Good night, Anita," his voice soft in a way Tunde had never heard before. Meanwhile, Tunde found himself haunted by what-ifs. Each time he walked past the lounge, he wondered what could have been if he had asked for her number that night. Instead, he had given her his card, a lifeless piece of paper she never used. One Friday evening, after another long day at work, Tunde returned home to find Edwin in the kitchen, humming as he cooked. Tunde dropped his bag and leaned against the doorframe. "You're in a good mood," he said, trying to sound casual. Edwin grinned. "Anita's coming over this weekend, just for a visit. I want you to meet her properly." Tunde's heart sank, though he forced a smile. "That's nice." Inside, however, his thoughts were anything but calm. He felt a gnawing jealousy, but also regret. Anita, the woman he had felt drawn to, was now slipping further away into Edwin's world. That night, as he lay on his bed, Tunde stared at the ceiling fan spinning lazily. He thought of his checklist, the standards he had clung to so tightly. Intelligence, independence, beauty, balance. But now, as he imagined Anita laughing on the phone with Edwin, he realized something bitter. He had never even given himself the chance to know if she fit that list. He had judged her from a distance, assumed she might not meet his standards, and now Edwin was discovering her depth while he stood outside the door. The irony burned him. Edwin, who never carried a checklist, who approached life with ease, was now the one Anita called late at night. And Tunde, with all his careful planning, was left alone with his thoughts. The next day, Edwin received another call from Anita. His voice carried across the room as he spoke warmly. Tunde, sitting on the couch, listened silently. When Edwin hung up, he turned to Tunde. "She asked about you, by the way," Edwin said casually. Tunde's heart skipped. "She asked about me?" "Yes," Edwin replied, chuckling. "She remembered you from the lounge. She said you were quiet, like you had something on your mind. She wondered why you didn't talk much." Tunde forced a smile, though it stung deeply. "What did you tell her?" "I told her you're just like that, serious and reserved." Edwin laughed lightly. "She said it made you look mysterious." Tunde looked away, his thoughts swirling. Mysterious. That was the word Anita had used. If only she knew it wasn't mystery, it was hesitation, doubt, fear of the unknown. And in that hesitation, he had lost her to someone who simply dared to ask. The weekend loomed closer, and Tunde's mind grew heavier. Edwin prepared for Anita's visit with an excitement that made it clear she was becoming important to him. Tunde, meanwhile, was left with the ache of what might have been. The truth was cruel but clear. In life, opportunities don't wait. And Anita, beautiful, confident, hard-working Anita, was now building a connection with someone else, and Tunde could only watch from the sidelines, knowing he had let her slip away with his own hands. The night in Lagos was warm and still, the hum of generators in the distance blending with the occasional bark of stray dogs. Inside their flat, the glow from Edwin's phone screen lit up his face as he sat by the window, whispering softly into the speaker. Anita's laughter spilled faintly into the room, her voice carrying a gentleness that filled the air. Tunde, lying on the couch with a magazine on his lap, glanced at Edwin and shook his head. "You seem to get along with her," he said, his tone teasing but edged with curiosity. Edwin smiled without looking away from the phone. "Oh yes," he answered, his voice unguarded. "I'm beginning to like her. No, I think I've fallen for her." Tunde chuckled, sitting up and stretching. "Oh, lover boy," he joked. "Well, you're fine with any kind of woman, so I'm sure you both fit. For me," he paused, smirking, "I don't think she's earning much, or has the qualities I want." Edwin turned his head sharply, his expression tightening. "For your information, Anita is a graduate. Life just wasn't fair to her side, that's all. You know how this country is. You get jobs mostly through connections, or by giving in to things no woman should be forced into. She submitted her CV to top companies, but what she met there," he shook his head. "Most of them wanted to get in her skirt, but she refused. That's why she's still at the lounge." Tunde raised an eyebrow. "Oh, she said that to you, I don't trust women like that. What if she had agreed, do you think she would tell you?" Edwin sat up straight, his voice firm. "No, please, Tunde, don't say that. Not everyone is like that. Anita has dignity. She's not like the others." "Well, I can argue with you," Tunde said, waving his hand dismissively. "I know what I want, and I want someone else. Anita isn't my type, but if she makes you happy, good luck. As for me, I know my perfect woman is still somewhere waiting for me." He grinned with pride, not even letting Edwin reply before standing and walking out of the room with his head high. Edwin exhaled, staring at the phone in his hand. Anita, still on the line, had overheard enough to sense the tension. "Did he say something?" she asked gently. Edwin lowered his voice. "Don't mind him. Tunde is just particular. He has this checklist of what a woman should be. Sometimes I think it blinds him. But me? I know what I want, and I want you." Anita's silence on the line was heavy with emotion. Finally, she whispered, "Thank you, Edwin." Days slipped into weeks. Weeks into months. The rhythm of Edwin and Anita's relationship grew steady, like a song only the two of them knew the lyrics to. They talked late into the night, shared laughter over little things, and slowly built a trust that felt unshakable. Edwin, being resourceful and well-connected at work, began pulling strings quietly. He believed in Anita's potential and wanted her out of the lounge, where men often looked at her with eyes that made him uncomfortable. One evening, he came home with good news. "Anita," he said over the phone, his voice bubbling with excitement, "I got you an interview with one of our client firms. It's a decent office job. No games, no backdoor conditions. Just your qualifications." On the other side of the line, Anita gasped. "Are you serious?" "Yes," Edwin said. "You deserve better, and I'll make sure you get it." The following week, Anita attended the interview in her best attire, her natural curls neatly styled, her confidence boosted by Edwin's encouragement. Within days, she received a call she had gotten the job. The joy in her voice when she told Edwin was unlike anything he had heard before. "I can't believe it," she said, tears of relief in her tone. "Edwin, thank you. You don't know what this means to me." "It means you're where you belong," Edwin replied proudly. With that, Anita resigned from the lounge. Her days as a waitress ended, replaced by mornings of office work, meetings, and colleagues who treated her with respect. It was a new beginning, and Edwin stood by her every step. Meanwhile, Tunde remained unchanged. He continued his life of work, gym, and selective dating. Women came and went, each failing to pass through the sieve of his checklist. Some were beautiful but not ambitious. Others were ambitious but too dependent. Some ticked nearly all his boxes, yet he would always find one flaw too great to overlook. One evening, as Edwin prepared to head out to meet Anita, Tunde watched him with a mixture of amusement and faint annoyance. "You and this girl," he said, shaking his head. "Are you sure it's not infatuation? You look like a teenager in love." Edwin slipped on his jacket, smiling. "Call it whatever you want, but it's real. And I'm not ashamed. Tunde, sometimes I feel sorry for you. You think you're being wise with your standards, but maybe you're just blocking yourself from happiness." Tunde laughed, waving his hand. "Don't pity me. My own woman is out there, and she'll fit everything I want. Until then, I'll wait." Edwin only smiled, unwilling to argue further. By the 6th month of their relationship, Edwin and Anita were inseparable. She had settled into her new job, and her gratitude toward him had blossomed into deep affection. When they were together, their conversations flowed effortlessly, whether about future plans, family, or the small joys of life. One evening, Anita surprised Edwin with a home-cooked meal in his flat. She arrived carrying bowls, wrapped in kitchen towels to keep them warm. The smell of jollof rice, plantain, and peppered chicken filled the apartment, drawing even Tunde out of his room. "Wow," Tunde said, peering into the kitchen. "This smells good." Anita laughed softly. "Thank you. It's the least I could do. Edwin has been good to me." Edwin beamed, placing a hand on her shoulder. "She cooks as well as she talks," he teased. They all sat to eat, but the air between Tunde and Anita was thick with unspoken words. She smiled politely at him, but her attention was fully on Edwin. Tunde forced a smile and ate in silence, his heart twisting though he would never admit it. In time, Edwin and Anita's relationship reached the point of serious discussions. One night, as they walked under the dim streetlights near her apartment, Edwin took her hand. "Anita," he began softly, "I know we've only been together a few months, but I can't deny it. I see a future with you. Marriage, a family, everything." Anita stopped, her eyes wide, emotions welling up. "Edwin, are you serious?" "Yes," he said, squeezing her hand gently. "I'm serious. You mean that much to me." Her eyes glistened with tears, and she nodded slowly. "I feel the same. I never thought I'd find someone like you." Back at the flat, Tunde remained the same single, searching and holding tightly to his vision of the perfect woman. He watched as Edwin and Anita's love grew stronger, but he convinced himself he was unmoved. To him, Anita was not the woman he wanted, not because she lacked beauty, intelligence, or dignity though she had, but because she hadn't entered his life the way he had envisioned. His pride would not let him admit the sting of regret, nor the quiet ache he felt whenever he saw Edwin smile at his phone late into the night. So Tunde stayed patient, still waiting, still searching. But as Edwin and Anita planned their next steps together, the distance between the two friends began to grow. For the first time in years, it seemed their paths were no longer aligned, and soon, as if luck had Tunde in mind, he met a new woman. The evening at the restaurant replayed in Tunde's mind over and over again as he drove home. Christy's smile, her soft voice, and the way she confidently suggested splitting the bill, it was everything he had dreamed of. For years, he had imagined a woman who not only carried herself with beauty and intelligence, but also shared his ideals of partnership. Now, it seemed like Christy had walked right out of his checklist and into his reality. When he entered the flat, Edwin was in the living room scrolling through his phone. Tunde didn't even wait to sit before bursting into words. "Bro," he exclaimed, his eyes glowing with excitement. "I found her. Yes, I found the right woman." Edwin looked up, startled, then broke into a grin. "Finally, after all these years, you're saying this? Congratulations, my guy. But hope you're sure?" Tunde sat on the armrest of the chair, too restless to sit properly. "Her name is Christy. We met on Instagram. I saw her pictures and decided to shoot my shot. We talked, and I asked her everything, every single thing on my checklist. She passed it all, Edwin. All. And when we met today, bro, it was like destiny." Edwin chuckled, shaking his head. "So you've become a social media lover boy? That's good though. What makes you so sure she's the one?" Tunde leaned closer, his voice lowering with seriousness. "At the restaurant, when the bill came, guess what she did? She was the first to mention splitting it 50-50. She said, 'Oh, babe, let's split the bill, please.' I almost fainted. Do you know how long I've waited for that? For a woman who thinks like me?" Edwin laughed heartily, clapping his hands. "Ah, so that's what won your heart. I'm happy for you, my brother. Truly. It's about time. So, when are we meeting your Miss Perfect?" Tunde leaned back, grinning proudly. "Soon, Edwin. Very soon. But I'm taking things step by step. I don't want to rush it. This one is special. I must handle it carefully." Edwin reached out and shook his hand firmly, his smile genuine. "I wish you both the best, Tunde. Really." For the first time in years, Tunde felt he had finally caught up with life. His heart was light, his steps confident, and his pride unshaken. In his eyes, Christy was the answer to his long prayers, and he was ready to prove it. Edwin's proposal to Anita had been nothing short of heartfelt. It wasn't an extravagant affair, but it was deeply genuine. He had saved up for months, bought a modest ring, and on one breezy evening after dinner, he went down on one knee in the presence of a few close friends. Anita had burst into tears, covering her face with both hands, before finally whispering a trembling, "Yes." The wedding came not long after. It wasn't grand or decorated with all the glamour social media loved to parade, but it was unique in its own way. They did what they could afford, and with the help of both families, the day went smoothly. Anita wore a simple lace gown that glowed under the afternoon sun, while Edwin stood tall in his navy blue suit, smiling from ear to ear. Friends who attended testified that the joy in their eyes was more precious than gold or diamonds. After the celebrations, Edwin moved out of the apartment he had long shared with Tunde. It was bittersweet. Tunde helped him pack, and though he joked about missing his roommate's snoring, the reality of being alone sank in quickly. Watching his younger brother step into married life left a sharp pang in his chest. That night, as Tunde sat in the quiet apartment, he scrolled through his phone, staring at the many pictures and videos of Edwin and Anita's wedding. His heart was heavy, not with jealousy, but with a gnawing thought. Maybe it's my time, too. He had been dating Christy for some months now, and everything about her screamed perfect. She was beautiful, confident, smart, and, most importantly, she checked every box on his long-held checklist. The pressure grew until he finally made up his mind he was ready. So, one evening, at a cozy rooftop lounge with a city view, Tunde slipped a ring onto Christy's finger. She gasped dramatically, covering her mouth, before screaming yes and hugging him so tightly he almost lost balance. Christy wasted no time. Within minutes, the ring was all over her Instagram story. He asked, and I said yes, she wrote, flashing the diamond under soft lights. Her 300K followers went wild. Comments flooded, in some congratulating her, others poking fun. A few doubted the authenticity of the ring. Fake, some friends tweeted. Others even went as far as making vlogs, accusing her of faking the entire proposal. The noise on social media angered Christy. "We need to shut them up," she told Tunde the next morning. Her brows were furrowed as she scrolled through endless comments. "They think I'm lying. We must give them something they can't talk down on. I want a big wedding, Tunde. Elaborate. Grand. Let it trend everywhere." Tunde blinked, taken aback. He hadn't planned on anything massive. His salary was decent but modest, and the thought of financing such a wedding made his stomach tighten. But Christy smiled and placed her hands on his shoulders. "Don't worry, babe. We'll split the bills. I'll handle my side. You handle yours. We'll make it happen together," she assured him. Her confidence soothed him. She was right, they had always split bills, and she had always carried her weight. If she wanted this wedding, maybe it wasn't so impossible. So plans began. Christy worked closely with planners, choosing decorations that sparkled like something out of a fairy tale. She picked a gown that trended online weeks before the wedding, while Tunde got fitted for a designer suit. When the big day finally came, it shook the internet. Pictures of their grand wedding flooded blogs and social media. Influencers reposted it. Headlines carried the story, "Christy's fairy tale wedding. Instagram queen ties the knot." Tunde and Christy trend nationwide. Even people who had mocked her before couldn't deny the glamour. Tunde, though overwhelmed by the noise, couldn't deny the pride swelling in his chest. He had given Christy the wedding she wanted. He had given himself a woman who fit his perfect description. And as they danced that night under flashing lights and phone cameras, he believed life couldn't get any better. After the wedding, their lives settled into a rhythm. Christy was already a star online. With every picture, every story, every video, she pulled in revenue. Companies paid her to advertise their products. Fans sent her gifts. What started as just posting her life became her career, and her income was nothing to joke about. On the other hand, Tunde continued his life as a salary earner. His job was steady, respectable, but the financial demands of their lifestyle weighed on him. Bills, rent, groceries, sometimes they piled high, but Christy often lightened the load. Sometimes she would foot an entire bill without blinking. It baffled Tunde, yet it also made him grateful. Many times he found himself whispering, "Thank God I followed my mind and married someone who fits my checklist." Christy's independence, her financial contribution, and her ability to keep up with the lifestyle he had always dreamed of made him believe he had chosen well. Each day with her felt like a new beginning. Waking up to see her preparing content, arranging her outfits, or taking bright selfies with a smile that lit the room, made him feel he was living a modern fairy tale. For Tunde, Christy wasn't just a wife. She was proof that patience pays, that dreams come true, and that sometimes what you imagine really does exist. At least, that's what he told himself as he scrolled through her posts every night, smiling at the comments and the love she received from strangers. His pride was tied not only to his wife but also to the fact that, finally, He too had a story worth showing to the world. Well, Tunde never knew what fate had in store for him. Christy's pregnancy was like fireworks across her social media. Her followers congratulated her with long threads, heartfelt messages, and even online gifts. She basked in the attention, posting daily updates of her cravings, her mood swings, and her growing baby bump. Tunde, too, was excited. He had always dreamed of being a father, and now that dream was coming alive right before his eyes. But as the months rolled by, the attention became more than just congratulations. Christy began to feel the pressure of staying relevant. She wanted her followers to see that she wasn't just like every other woman who got pregnant. She wanted her journey to stand out. One afternoon, as she scrolled through Instagram, she leaned back and said to Tunde, "Babe, I think I want to have this baby outside the country." Imagine the headlines: Christy welcomes her baby in the US, or Christy's bundle of joy born in London. It will trend. Brands will reach out. It'll open doors. Tunde's fork froze halfway to his mouth. They had been eating dinner, a quiet evening after a long day at work. He looked at her, confused. "Outside the country? Christy, do you know how expensive that is? Hospital bills, travel, accommodation. It's not small money." Christy waved her hand, unconcerned. "Relax, babe. We'll find a way. And you know me, I'll monetize it. The attention will bring in deals, sponsorships. This isn't just about having a baby, it's an investment." Tunde sighed, his brow creasing. He wanted to argue, but Christy's determination was like stone. She tweeted about it the next morning, and the internet exploded. Her followers gushed about how classy and visionary she was, while others debated whether she was simply trying to show off. Christy didn't care. The engagement was what mattered. Christy was getting the attention she had always wanted online. She promised herself that she would never give up. She kept posting pictures and videos so that people would always like her posts. She wanted to stay important and popular. One evening, while Christy was scrolling on her phone, she saw something that caught her eye on Instagram. It was about Mimi Williams. The blogs were full of her pictures. The caption said, "Popular influencer Mimi Williams just bought a house worth $500 million and also a new Benz." The post was everywhere on social media. Mimi and Christy were old friends. They both started their influencer work at the same time. Christy was surprised and confused. She wondered how Mimi was able to get so much money, even though she herself had been doing well too. Christy could not stop thinking about the post. The next day, she decided to send a message to Mimi. To her surprise, Mimi replied almost at once, like she had been waiting. "Hello, Christy," Mimi said. Christy did not waste time. She went straight to the point. "My friend, please help me. How did you do it? How did you become this successful? Please, I will do anything. Just tell me, please." Mimi only sent a laughing emoji and then said, "Christy, it's all God. But don't worry, I will help you. Send me your new WhatsApp number. Someone will reach out to you there." With a happy heart, Christy and Tunde began planning their trip to the USA. Christy, now heavily pregnant but still strong, kept her followers updated every single day. She would post, "The baby is kicking today," or "I feel heavy but I'm grateful." Her viewers loved it, and she basked in the attention. Tunde, on the other hand, was busy with his own documents, carefully preparing for the journey. They had both agreed to book their flights separately, and soon the day for travel was drawing near. That afternoon, Christy sat on the couch, quietly watching television when a soft chime came from her phone. A message had arrived from an unknown number. She frowned and picked it up. "Hello, Christy. Mimi here. I have a favor to ask. I've got a package I need delivered abroad. My hands are tied at the moment, and I can't move around freely. If you can take it with you, I'll pay you handsomely. 25 million part payment now, 25 million balance once it's done." Christy froze. She read the message once, then again. Her heart raced. She blinked hard at the number that shimmered on her screen, 25 million. It was more money than she had ever dreamed of holding at once. Her thoughts began to tumble. That kind of money could pay for her luxury maternity shoot. It could cover her hospital bills abroad. It could give her the soft life she had always longed for, something extra that she can handle on her own. She bit her lip, her mind spinning. It sounded almost too good to be true. But it was Mimi, her old friend, someone she once trusted. Without a second thought, Christy agreed. "Send it," she replied. That night, she didn't tell Tunde. She convinced herself it wasn't necessary. Why burden him with details when she was handling it? He already worried too much. Besides, she wanted to surprise him with how she had managed the travel funds. Days later, the package arrived. A medium-sized parcel, neatly wrapped. Christy snapped a picture as instructed and sent it to the number Mimi had used to contact her. Within hours, cash was delivered. Thick bundles of notes, crisp and new, stacked in a small box. Christy stared at it, her heart pounding with excitement. She ran her fingers over the notes, her smile wide. This was her blessing in disguise. There was no time to deposit it in the bank. It was already late in the day. Tunde wasn't home, so she hurriedly hid the money at the bottom of her closet, beneath piles of folded clothes. Her mind buzzed with plans. She imagined the looks on her haters' faces when they saw her boarding that plane. She thought of the photos she'd post the hospital room abroad, the baby wrapped in foreign blankets. This deal was the turning point she had always prayed for. But that night, as she lay beside Tunde, she couldn't sleep. She shifted restlessly, her mind racing. What exactly was in the package? She hadn't checked. Mimi hadn't said. It wasn't her business, she told herself. She just had to deliver it. Still, unease gnawed at the back of her mind. Tunde, half asleep, turned to her. "Why are you restless? Everything okay?" Christy forced a smile. "I'm fine, babe. Just the pregnancy," he nodded, pulling her close before drifting back to sleep. But Christy's eyes remained open, staring at the ceiling, her mind filled with questions she didn't want to answer. The next day, she carried on as usual, creating content, posting pregnancy updates, and replying to comments. But every time she walked past the closet, her stomach tightened. She thought about opening the package, just to see. But what if it ruined everything? Later that evening, she rushed to the closet. Pulling out the hidden box, she opened it and stared at the stacks of cash again. Her chest swelled with pride. She didn't need anyone's pity. She was making things happen for herself and her family. Curiosity clawed at her, but fear held her back. Finally, she pushed it back into hiding, whispering to herself, "It's none of my business. I'll just deliver it and collect the balance." And deep down, Christy knew she was walking a path that could either change her life forever or destroy everything she had built. The night before their long-awaited trip was filled with excitement and nerves. Christy, now heavily pregnant, moved around the bedroom folding clothes, neatly arranging shoes, and checking off items on her list. Tunde was just as busy, though unlike Christy, he was calmer, methodical. He packed his suits, casual wear, and important documents in his box while humming to himself. To him, this trip was more than just about Christy's dream. It was about being there for his child, ensuring the birth went smoothly, and proving to himself that he was ready for fatherhood. After they were mostly done, Tunde slipped on a clean shirt and told Christy, "I want to step out to see Edwin, just to bid them farewell. You finish up here, okay?" "I won't be long," Christy nodded, forcing a smile. "All right, babe, greet him for me." The moment Tunde left, her smile vanished. Her eyes darted to the corner of the room, where Mimi's package sat like a shadow, unmoving yet loud in her conscience. She opened her travel bag again and tried to force it in, pushing aside clothes, shoes, and toiletries. But no matter how she adjusted, the package simply wouldn't fit. Panic began to swell in her chest. She had promised Mimi she would deliver it, and the thought of losing the balance of the money terrified her. Her gaze shifted toward Tunde's box. It was already closed, but not locked. She hesitated, biting her lower lip. He'll never know, she told herself. It's just space. He won't even check. It's just luggage, we're traveling together anyway. She slipped the package into his box, pushing it between neatly folded clothes, then zipped it shut. Her breath came fast as she wiped the sweat forming on her forehead. She told herself it was nothing. Just another box. Just another bag. She would collect it when they arrived. By the time Tunde returned, her face was calm again. All set? He asked. Yes, she replied quickly. Everything is ready. The following morning, they arrived at the airport hours before their flight. Tunde insisted they get there early. He had been clear with Christy. This is about our child. I want to be involved in every detail. At the check-in counter, they each presented their tickets separately. Christy handled her own baggage and bills, while Tunde did the same for his. It was how they had always done things, splitting responsibilities, each carrying their own load. Christy's luggage was checked first. She smiled at the officer, handed over her passport, and after a quick search, she was cleared. She stepped aside, pulling out her phone to snap a picture of herself at the airport for her Instagram story. She tagged the location with the caption, "Journey to motherhood abroad begins. Keep us in prayers. Baby abroad." Within seconds, her comment section buzzed with hearts and congratulatory emojis. Then came Tunde's turn. He handed over his passport and placed his box on the conveyor belt. He stood with his arms folded, watching casually, unaware of the storm about to break. The officer ran the bag through the scanner, then frowned. He signaled another officer. They whispered, pointed at the screen, then gestured for the box to be opened. "Excuse me, sir. Please step aside," one of them said. Tunde's eyebrows rose in confusion. "What's the matter?" "Routine check," the officer replied flatly. The box was opened, and almost immediately, the atmosphere shifted. Buried between neatly folded clothes was the small black package Christy had hidden. One of the officers reached for it, tore it open, and what spilled out made Christy's knees go weak. Powder-filled sachets, carefully sealed, glimmered under the fluorescent lights. Tunde's face drained of colour. "That's not mine," he shouted. "I don't know anything about that." Before his words could sink in, two uniformed officers grabbed him by the arms. The cold bite of metal snapped around his wrists. The sound of the cuffs echoed louder than the announcements on the speakers. "Please, you're making a mistake," Tunde cried out. "I swear, I've never seen that package before. Ask my wife. Ask Christy. She can tell you." He turned toward her, desperation in his eyes, but Christy stood frozen, trembling. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She wanted to speak, to confess, to tell them it wasn't Tunde, but her throat locked up. Fear choked her. The officers, seeing her silence, dismissed her presence altogether. "Sir, you are under arrest for possession and attempted trafficking of illegal substances," one officer said firmly. "It's not mine." Tunde's voice cracked. "Christy, say something. Tell them it's not mine." But Christy's hands shook as she clutched her phone. She dialed Mimi's number frantically. It rang once, twice, then stopped. She dialed again. This time, the call didn't even connect. She opened her WhatsApp to send a message, but the blue ticks from the earlier conversation were the last sign of life. Mimi had gone silent. The officers weren't interested in explanations. They looked through Tunde's records, his ticket, his payments, his name on the baggage tag. Everything pointed to him. There was no joint booking, no shared payment. Even Christy's luggage was entirely separate, reinforcing the narrative that Tunde alone owned the suspicious package. "Please believe me," Tunde cried, his voice raw. "Check everything. I didn't pack that. It's not mine." But the officers were unmoved. "Sir, you'll have the chance to explain at the station. For now, you're coming with us." They pulled him toward the waiting security vehicle, his protests drowned out by the busy hum of the airport. Travelers turned their heads, whispering. Cameras flashed. A few bystanders took videos, already uploading to social media with captions like, "Accountant arrested for drugs at Lagos airport." Christy watched helplessly, her hands trembling as tears welled in her eyes. She wanted to scream the truth, but fear of losing everything, the marriage, her online reputation, the money, sealed her lips. Her chest tightened as guilt pressed down like a heavy stone. When the officers shoved Tunde into the van, he turned one last time, locking eyes with her. His face was a mixture of betrayal and desperate hope. "Christy, please, tell them." The door slammed shut. The van drove off, leaving Christy standing alone at the curb, her phone still in her hand, her body frozen in shock. The Instagram story she had posted minutes earlier was already gaining thousands of views. Her comment section now mixed congratulations with confusion as word of the arrest began to leak online. She dialed Mimi's number again. Still no answer. She texted frantically, "They've arrested Tunde. Where are you? Pick up, please. What did you put in that package?" But the message hung there, unread. Christy's legs gave way, and she sank onto a bench, her body trembling. She whispered to herself over and over, "What have I done? What have I done?" But deep down, she knew the answer. She had traded her husband's freedom for a deal that was too good to be true. And now, Tunde was paying the price. Will Christy say the truth? Or will she leave Tunde to bear the consequences? Watch out for part 2.